The Sunday night Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, as we've got stormy conditions up and down the East Coast with heavy rains, gusty winds, some severe thunderstorms in a few places. We'll put it all together, even some snow if you're lucky enough to live far enough inland. So fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a, well, semi bumpy night. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and you too can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned at the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. And use the coupon code I want a weather station. Still got plenty of time to get one for your favorite weather enthusiast for Christmas. Use that coupon code, because then Joe Rayo will tell you what you will get by
You're
using
going to get,
said coupon code.
yes. Well, said coupon code, I want a weather station, and you'll get 10 big percent off on this rainy weather night.
Yes, Sunday night. Yeah, I could tell that the snow lovers feel like their fingernails are being pulled out with pliers because uh, they're getting mad now, even when it doesn't snow when it's not supposed to snow to begin with. So so you know that their sensitivities are on edge somewhat.
Well, there are people out there who said, well, 20, 30 years ago, this would have been snow, or 20, 30 years ago, it would have been much colder and it would have been a much different story. But now, as one person wrote to me on Facebook, he said, well, December is now the new October. And I conveniently pointed out to him, he said, we haven't had any good Decembers in years and years. And I pointed out to him, I said, you obviously have a faulty memory. 3 years ago, we had a cold start to December, and on the 15th of December, we had 5 to 15 inches of snow. What happened then?
It
So
got washed away on Christmas Eve with 70-degree temperatures.
that's right. That's absolutely right. So, but at least he or she had everything that they wanted for a little while. And I am sure, and I will continue to say, that for all of you out there who have already thrown the towel in, that winter is never going to arrive, whatever, just keep your shirt on, because it will happen. It will be heading our way. Maybe not immediately, but I do believe that we're going to be seeing a flip to a colder, and yes, maybe even a snowier weather pattern in the coming weeks.
Well, yeah, I said on Thursday that I'm starting to wonder, and that's probably a kind way of putting what my expression is. And I mean, I really didn't see anything today. And by the way, there seems to be this fixation on dates, okay? And I really kind of want to pull back from that. Uh, people, maybe not so much when we're talking in terms of pattern changes. You can sort of give a general broad view of those things. But, a lot of people in the last couple of weeks were throwing out dates, the 16th and 17th for a bit for a big storm, or whatever the dates were. And seriously, you probably will do yourself a little bit of a favor if you just don't pay attention to that sort of stuff. And I guess Joe, I can't emphasize enough, don't forecast shop. I mean, really, just don't forecast shop. All you're doing is really gravitating to whoever is going to tell you what you want to hear. And that really doesn't do you much good, because 99 times out of 100, it's going to be it ain't happening, and it's going to be wrong. All right,
Yep.
so welcome to everybody tonight on the chat board. Hope you had a great weekend. 2.38 inches of rain here, Joe, at here at the side of Cook Mountain in northeast Georgia. It is 38 degrees at the moment. It has stopped raining here at my house. But however, at Brasstown Bald, which is Georgia's highest peak at just under 5,000 feet, and it's less than 10 minutes away from my house, it is 31 degrees, but raining at the top of the mountain, and 31. So if you thought 33 in rain was depressing, try 31 in rain.
Well, we have up until now, we really haven't had. I mean, we've had rain here in my sector. Maybe about a third of an inch has fallen. I'm taking a wild guess I haven't checked the rain gauge lately, but it hasn't been all that much to write home about. People saying, "Oh, well, maybe it won't be so bad." But uh, the models, the short-term models, were indicating that we were going to see a lot of stuff off to our east. In fact, Long Island has been getting hit very hard
Oh, many,
since.
many, many places there. I've gotten word from folks, already have already gotten an inch and a half plus in some places.
Right, and it looks like with the actual wave of low pressure moving up along this cold front, scheduled to arrive in our general vicinity later this evening and into the overnight hours, even where we are, where we hadn't seen very much to write home about, we will probably see the precipitation pick up quite a bit, and maybe even see a little bit of convection. We had thunderstorm activity reported at JFK Airport earlier this afternoon. So I've got the radar whenever you're ready to
All right.
rock and
All
roll.
right. So real quick before you do the radar, let me just real quick. Let's do the watches and warnings and see what's going on out there.
Yeah.
The uh, folks on the chat board, again, I said big welcome to you and those of you who are watching in the background tonight. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show. If you are new to the show, we're glad you're here. Participate in the conversation by subscribing to my YouTube channel. Getting close to 14,000 subscribers, which is really nice. And Joe and I do like to get to 100 likes. So if you do like the show, uh, hit the like button. And of course, turn your notifications on so this way you don't miss the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. All right, we've got a slew of warnings. Just a couple of positive notes to mention for those of you in southeastern Virginia and in eastern North Carolina, where there was a tornado watch up. That watch has now ceased to be. Also in central northern uh, the northern half of the Florida Peninsula, not quite into all of the Panhandle, was also under a tornado watch, but that has been taken down, so that's good. We've got flood watches. The flood watches for northeastern Virginia and much of Maryland are also have expired, but we do still have flood watches up for Delaware, New Jersey, much of easternmost Pennsylvania, northeastward up through the Hudson Valley in New England. And we also have some winter weather as far as advisories are concerned. We've got winter weather advisories up for a good chunk of northeastern Pennsylvania. And you're not in a winter weather advisory, Joe, but I think did they put Dutchess County in it? I can't really see. Take a
Um,
quick look.
I've
No, I don't think so. We do have winter storm warnings up for, I believe that's Ulster County. Is that correct? The one
um,
that's northwest of Poughkeepsie?
that is Western Ulster County.
Okay.
In Ulster County, and it's under the jurisdiction of Albany. In Western Ulster County, it's more elevated, and so they split the county in half. So Eastern Ulster County is under flood watch, and Western Ulster County has a winter storm warning posted, and I'm not sure exactly what the amount is that they're anticipating there. Um, I could tell you in just a second here. All right, heavy wet snow expected. Total accumulations of 5 to 10 inches.
Oh, very
Yeah,
nice.
this is for northern Herkimer, Hamilton, southern Herkimer, Scolari, and western Greene and western Ulster County, including the cities of Big Moose. You remember Big Moose? He was an Archie
Oh,
comic strip, right? Remember?
yes, yes,
Yeah. Big
exactly.
Moose, Eagle Bay, McKeever, Old Forge, Atwell, Nobleboro, Northwood, Long Lake, Sabattis, or Sabattis, Mohawk, Little Fall. You get the picture.
I got
Culver,
it.
5 to 10 inches of heavy wet snow. Winds gusting as high as 40 miles per hour on Monday, and the warning is in effect from 7 p.m. now, 7 p.m. tonight, until 7 p.m. tomorrow night, Monday night. And needless to say, if you're going to be heading in that direction, Travel will be difficult due to snow-covered roadways, low visibility, hazardous conditions could impact the morning commute. It looks like it could be a real mess. Again, this is for places of higher elevations. The highest snowfall amounts will occur at elevations above 1,500 feet. Incidentally, those of you who have heard of the famous Mohonk Mountain House, they are in that zone. They are way up. So if you're at the mountain house right now, you're probably seeing some big fat wet flakes coming down pretty hard, and they could find themselves with a bit of snow on the ground come later tonight or tomorrow morning.
Well, we got winter storm warnings up for much of Vermont. We have winter weather advisories up for the counties from surrounding Albany up to Saratoga Springs and Glens Falls, and also in western Massachusetts and Pittsfield, Mass. And I'll take a step down. Let's go to Mount Holly and take a look because I want to just look at these Eastern Pennsylvania winter weather advisories. Allentown is not in it, but Scranton is in it. So Harrisburg is not, Lancaster not, State College not, Williamsport not. So you get the idea here, folks. And the bright green is that there is a coastal flood advisory up for Ocean County. We do have high wind warnings up still for Suffolk County on Long Island, wind advisories, Nassau County, west into New York City, Brooklyn and Queens in New York City, and also the eastern half coastal counties from Connecticut eastward. And if we check out Box, which is Boston, you can see Upton here, New London in a winter, in a high wind warning. So southeasternmost Connecticut is under a high wind warning, as are the southern counties of Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts, including Cape Cod, with advisories up for the inland spots. Now, Joe's going to take us around, do a little radar tour. And we'll see what's going on. There was heavy, that heavy rain that came through earlier today. Most of that went over Connecticut, over Long Island, Connecticut, and points north and east. And then there's this sort of little bit of a gap, which often happens. And then you had these thunderstorms that developed in North Carolina and into Virginia, which eventually sort of shifted their way northward up into Maryland. And now that batch of heavier rain is moving on up northward. So that's what's going to be coming in for tonight. So the spots that didn't get as much rain during the day are going to make up the difference tonight. And there probably will be additional rains for Long Island and Connecticut as well. So the flood watches continue for that reason.
Yeah, and in fact, if you can imagine, I put the radar up here, the weather front, the cold front, is located west and north of the immediate tri-state area, but there's a wave of low pressure down here. It's a little bit off the map in the lower left, and that is traversing along this front, rippling up along this front, and that is going to provide the impetus for some heavier rainfall to arrive in places that really haven't seen all that much in the coming hours. Notice, if you will, for example, that there is a spread or outbreak of yellow here. That is indicative of moderate to possibly even heavy rainfall over western Pennsylvania, western New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, and that is traveling on a north-northeast direction on up into parts of Orange County, and eventually will make its way into the mid-Hudson Valley region. And this is the area that Joe just alluded to that we will be seeing more in terms of rainfall in the coming hours, and maybe even a bit of rumbling of thunder too. Long Island, they got hit pretty good, along with portions of Connecticut, back during the early to mid-afternoon. Not all that much happening right now over there, but they will be getting back into the thick of things probably sometime after midnight tonight, because of that wave of low pressure moves up and through the area, through the immediate tri-state area, along about midnight, 1, 2 in the morning. It will then continue to traverse up across New England, and so it will take all that heavy rain with it. So let's say where I am, here in Putnam Valley, we may very well see some heavy-duty rains 10, 11, 12 o'clock, midnight, even 1, 2 in the morning. But then that should, I won't say end or abate or subside. It'll diminish some, and the really heavy artillery will then shift over into Connecticut and on up toward Massachusetts. So That's the New York radar. Again, here is where the radar site is at Upton, New York, and Eastern Long Island. If we take a look here over in Dover Air Force Base, Ellendale area, and you can see again, initially the opening frames don't show all that much in New Jersey, but we see that there's a growing area of yellow and even some stripes of orange and red. This might have been a little squall line that passed on through portions of eastern Maryland, on up toward northern Delaware in the last few hours. Then, as we take another look here, let's go further to the north and west. Let's see what Boston is getting. Boston right now is in the thick of a moderate rainfall activity. At least they were a little while ago. Now they have kind of lightened up, but they'll get a little bit of a respite, and then late tonight, after midnight especially, Boston will be seeing additional heavy-duty rain and possible thunderstorms. Binghamton, and up in this region here that I'm pointing out with the cursor, they're cold enough for the white stuff, and they're probably going to get more than a few inches up in this area, this zone. Binghamton right now, as you can see, seeing some moderate precipitation, and they will continue to get into that in the hours to come. A little bit lighter activity as you go further west toward Buffalo. In fact, what is Buffalo doing right now? We'll check out Buffalo quickly. Buffalo seems to be right outside of the main zone of precipitation. Here's Buffalo. They may have some spotty precip, but again, the main action with all of what we've been watching so far today is, I'd say about 150 miles to their east across, again, central New York, down from, let's say, east of Rochester and down to, somewhere around Endwell area. Here's Elmira here. And so they are not really seeing all that much in the form of precipitation right now in and around Buffalo. Anywhere else you want to go, Joe? Or
let's go to Eastern North Carolina.
Eastern North Carolina. We'll take you to Morehead City, North Carolina, Newport, and you could see there the ripple of low pressure probably is in this that I spoke of, probably is in the general vicinity here, or maybe actually to the north, the trailing cold front moving through eastern North Carolina right now. As you can see, there is a fairly good amount of light to moderate activity, maybe even a little bit of heavy stuff embedded in some flashes of red that we see here. And let's go down to Joe Cioffi land. Let's go to, I'll go to Greenville, Spartanburg in North Carolina. Joe is right about over here, and has already mentioned that he's received a fairly good complement of rain. And most of South Carolina right now is seeing, looks like light to moderate rainfall, and also in portions of northeastern Georgia getting some light to moderate rainfall as well. So basically speaking, if you're anywhere along the Atlantic seaboard, and Joe, tonight on one of the national newscasts, I think it was ABC, the person who was reading the news said 50 million people along the Eastern Seaboard are under the gun tonight, as if we've never seen rain before. Or trying to give the idea that the tornadoes that were cited in portions of Tennessee yesterday, that were noted in Tennessee, are the same type of unsettled weather maker that is now going to affect 50 million people along the east coast of the United States, trying to make it sound really a lot worse than it's going to be. Now, I'm not trying to downplay anything here. We are going to be seeing some flooding tonight. We are going to be seeing some gusty winds, but again, the illusion was batten down, because you could be in line for funnel clouds and tornadoes tonight, along with that, and it's once again trying to build ratings and trying to get people not to turn their channel to another channel. Stay with us. We'll tell you about the impending disaster. So
All right.
anyway, it's here, it's happening, and will be with us now for much of the overnight.
Well, I just want to also point out that in West Virginia and in northwestern Virginia, we do have winter storm warnings up and winter weather advisories. Mainly, it's I-81 and north and west of I-81 to the other side in Virginia. Right now, the only place that's producing that is showing snow that I'm seeing, um, it's Oakland, Maryland, which is in Garrett County, so that's in westernmost Maryland. 30,
Right.
32, they're reporting a quarter of a mile in S plus. And but it's still raining in Martinsburg, so they're northwest of 12, gusting to 21 and 46. So they're in the cold air. I'm just looking at some of the Hagerstown, which I just actually drove through a couple of weeks ago, or last week maybe it was. Raining and moderate rain in 47 with a north wind at 9. Winchester, Virginia, in northwestern Virginia, drizzle in 45. Staunton, Virginia, light rain in 49. Just kind of dancing around here. Those areas are going to change over to snow. And also in western North Carolina, going to see that happen as well. And I'll show you what the Weather Service on the digital forecast is going for. And I really can't argue. But again, here too, it's, there's a lot of it. Elevation's going to be a big driver in all of this because we don't have, you know, it would be a different scenario here if we had a Canadian connection that was bringing down some semblance of Arctic air. I've been sort of using the phrase of calling it dirty cold air, in that it's cyclonic cold air, which in December doesn't really give you very much. If it was February, it might be a different story, but uh, you make with what you got, and when you have to stick in the word elevation in places to define the snow amounts in upstate New York, that's kind of telling you that this cold air that's coming down is not quality cold air. Let's put it that way.
Right.
But here we have, they're going for amounts mainly for a few inches in areas in western North Carolina. So I would imagine that's got to be above 3,500 or 4,000 feet. And then, moving up into northwestern Virginia, you start to get on the West Virginia side, where you've got, you know, 3, 4, 5 inches. Again, the higher mountain tops, a coating to an inch as you go lower. And then you see this sort of little dark stripe that's east of I-81. Because if you've ever driven I-81, you got mountains on both sides of you, and I-81 is kind of in the middle in this sort of a valley. But again, it's well north and west. And by the way, to mention the fact, and I wrote about this last night, was yesterday's run of models, several runs, trying to show that cold air was going to be a little more important, trying to show the wave off the coast and making a run for eastern passing east of Montauk and offshore and kind of wanting to force cold air down, changing it over to snow all the way down into southeastern Virginia. And it wasn't just one model that did that, it was a bunch of them. And then they all backed off during the overnight run. So, it was kind of a hiccup, I guess, that it did that because it just sort of reverted back to the idea that the wave is going to be much, more tucked in. Meanwhile, you look at upstate New York, and as Joe said, Binghamton, they're forecasting 5 for Binghamton, 5 for Syracuse. And then you go northeast of there into the Adirondacks, you've got some 15, 16-inch amounts. That would be those elevated areas like Old Forge, for example. Um, Saranac Lake, that kind of those places, and also in northern Vermont, a stripe there of 8 to as high as 21 on one of the prints. Again, that's probably some mountaintop. Also the 4 in western Massachusetts, same idea. Albany 3 looks like the Catskills, at least a couple on the southern end of the Catskills and into the Poconos, and then the numbers start to go up as you go further on up to the north and east. And even in Maine, I mean, you have to go well inland, north and west of I-95 to get to any kind of accumulating snows there. So it's minimal, and it's kind of everybody because there isn't really a whole lot from the standpoint of snow. We've got some 1 to 3 inch amounts on the upper peninsula of Michigan. I'm sorry, on the upper part of the lower peninsula of Michigan, and then on the upper peninsula, there's a stripe of 12 to 18 from Sault Ste. Marie west. So you can see it there on the map. And let's just see what's going on out in the West because we do have folks that watch us, from the West Coast, believe it or not.
And
Uh,
the thing of Joe about tomorrow morning is that the models are still showing a very sharp line or a very sharp sweep of cold air aloft at 8:50. The zero line looks like it's going to be passing right over or through the tri-state area at around 7 o'clock in the morning. Now, down below the 850 millibar level, which is about 4,500 feet, it's still going to be above freezing. In fact, it'll probably be close to 40 degrees. But with that sharp sweep of colder air aloft, it would not be at all surprising if we saw wet flakes aloft coming on down, probably, melting as it moves on down through that warmer layer here at the surface. But don't be surprised if even, in portions of Westchester County or Rockland County or interior Connecticut, that you actually see snow tomorrow morning. Again, it's not going to stick. And again, for it to stick, you need to go quite high up into the atmosphere. The 850 level is about 4,500 feet, and it is elevated well north and west of New York City, and that's why they have winter storm warnings posted. So there, in that vicinity, they will get accumulating snow. But again, it would not be at all surprising if you look out the window tomorrow morning on the way to work or school, and you see, oh my goodness, look at this, it's snowing. Again, big wet slushy flakes probably mixing in with the rain, but that's what may very well happen as we get into the backside of that colder flow of air that will be coming in or sweeping in. Right now, according to on the chat board about 10 or 15 minutes ago, Renata said it was 57 degrees here at the house, and we've already had just about a half an inch of rain. Well, balmy indeed right now, but I can tell you that after midnight, those temperatures are going to be tumbling. And by daybreak tomorrow morning, as that area of sweep of colder air moves in, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw my thermometer registering temperatures at or below 40. And again, maybe even some wet snow falling as well.
yep. The West, not a whole lot over the next 3 days. This is actually through Wednesday evening. Coating to a couple of inches in parts of the central and northern Rockies. There are a few odd spots here and there where the numbers go up a little higher, but again, nothing to speak of. So much of the country, sort of a hint of what the week ahead is going to be, which is going to be on the quiet side. Now, rainfall amounts, and these are 7-day rainfall amounts, and this carries us through 0Z Monday. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to change this from a 7-day to a 5-day.
Probably very front loaded right now, wouldn't
Well,
it?
the thing is, this obviously doesn't count what's fallen during the daytime today. So now, and I also wanted to take out any influence if there's a weather system late next weekend, which would come into the time frame of this. So this is a clean map now. This is through Friday evening. So there's not much that's going to happen after for much of the eastern United States. Uh, Nothing much is going to happen after at all after this goes by. So on top of what has already fallen, WPC is showing another inch and a half for New Jersey, Delaware, into southeastern Virginia, 2 inches plus for Long Island, and 2.5 to 3 inches additional rain for central and east, much of Connecticut except the west. It's a little less in western Connecticut and central and eastern Massachusetts, and then running up through the state of Maine and even up into New Brunswick. So, I mean, there's still much more rain to go because this front has got to play through. The wave is going to develop, and that's going to enhance the rain, and that'll probably kick the wind in. Now, remember, we've been emphasizing the fact that today, for today and tonight, the strongest winds are going to be east of the frontal boundary. So if you're inland, you're getting some gusts, but it's nothing really to worry about. Uh, the winds inland are going to increase tomorrow. I'm thinking they'll probably be below advisory criteria, but I still think we're going to get gusts into the 30s tomorrow
Oh, yeah.
for a good chunk of the day, and maybe there might be the odd gust up to 40 that'll occur. So just bear that in mind for those of you who are inland. I don't think maybe they'll stick a wind advisory up. I don't know, but it looks like it might be just below criteria. Uh, the Gulf of Mexico and to Florida, now there's going to be some kind of low that's going to be trying to come out of the Gulf, which is why you see all that moisture down in the Gulf of Mexico itself, and then streaming up from the coastal bend of Texas all the way northwest into northwest Texas with inch and a half plus amounts and even 2.5 inch amounts. So there's that. The Mississippi Valley up and down from Louisiana all the way to Minnesota is quiet, as is the Ohio Valley. Much of the Gulf states and the Southeast, again, once this pulls out, we'll probably see dry conditions for the next 5. Moisture in the Rockies, in the central and northern Rockies, we're talking tenth to a quarter of an inch tops, maybe a few odd spots a little higher. And even in the Pacific Northwest, not much in the way of precip, a couple of half to 3/4 inch areas spread out over the next 5 days, which is nothing really to write home about. Uh,
109 likes already, Joe. And
good.
we've got quite an audience tonight for a Sunday night. 319 people are watching as of this moment in time. So we have a good crowd on hand, and I guess they all are here to find out what's going on in terms of the weather, be it rain, wind, or snow. And we thank you very much for tuning in. I know that all of you know that when we have unsettled weather, the one place you should go is right here at the Joe and Joe Weather House.
The Weather House. Okay, I like that. All right, a couple of things that I want to.
Would we like to, maybe would it be like, back in the 70s, there was a children's show and 2 women, they used to like to sing. It was on Channel 11.
Oh, right, the Magic
The
Garden.
Magic Garden, yeah. The Magic Weather House.
Uh,
I don't think
oh,
so. I don't
yeah.
think.
Well,
I want to.
here's what the surface map looks like, and actually, even before we do that, let me see. When you look at the satellite, okay, and you're dealing with a big intensifying storm, it's often common that you're going to see some sort of rotation in the clouds somewhere to indicate where there's some sort of an upper low, or if it's out in the ocean, you might even have it indicate that there's a surface low there. Um,
Looks like a big Y.
well,
Like,
yeah, I
nah.
mean, this is really, this is kind of evident of when you're dealing with a frontal boundary where the eastern and western edge of the clouds, there's like it's almost a really sharp straight line on either side, and gradually, the line starts to shifts eastward as the front pushes through. You don't see some sort of broad rotation going on someplace. Now there are upper air troughs that are swinging through, and eventually there probably will be a rotation, but that will occur tomorrow when the low finally gets up into Maine. But in the meantime, it's just this front with waves going along it, and the waves so far, none of them have really become. We're waiting for the main wave, let's put it that way, and that main wave is developing in this blow up of some thunderstorms in eastern North Carolina. By the way, I said earlier that the tornado watches were all done. I want to correct that. In easternmost North Carolina and the Outer Banks are still one tornado watch is still hanging on for a little while longer. But that's where we're seeing the blow up of thunderstorms. And as Joe pointed out earlier, this is where your wave is. This is going to be the main wave, and it's going to track north northeast, very close to the coastline, and then head up on into New England. And again, with the lack of any real cold air on the backside coming down, it's just basically, as I said earlier, it's dirty cold air, it's do-it-yourself cold air, cyclonic cold air, and not in December. Deeper into the winter, it might be a different story, but not in December. In the meantime, there's moisture coming in from off the Pacific, but again, not a big deal. And if you want to just want to see just a wide radar view of this, which I do have. We'll give that a quick view here, and you'll notice uh, there's the stuff in the east. There's a little bit of stuff coming into Oregon and moving into southern Idaho. There's some scattered light stuff around the Great Lakes. You got showers and a few storms down in Florida, but that's just about it. So we have to play all of this through during tonight and tomorrow morning, and then we can finally start to see weather conditions improve as we go through the day. We're up to 424 viewers. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, those of you who are watching for the first time. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss us Sunday through Thursday at 7:35. All right, let's do a little bit. Let's look at maps. Let's look at the GFS. So you can see kind of the blue expands in the inland spots in Western Virginia between now and 1 a.m. Almost to me. I just dropped another degree. I'm down to 37 here, so I'm guessing Brasstown might be 31 or 30 up at 5,000 feet. And there's your surface low. Tomorrow morning is forecast to be pretty much right on Nantucket, and then on up into southwestern New Brunswick. And of course, the gradient, again, tightening up between now and until the front passes on the east side. So over Long Island, southeastern New England, where we still have these high wind warnings up. You know, Bill Goodman sent me a quick message, Joe, and you mentioned this a few days ago, how you were, kind of perplexed as to why some of the numerical GFS models that you were looking at were not really showing much in the way of wind. And we talked about, well, maybe there's some sort of inversion, and the winds are not mixing down, and that may be what's happening. If the big winds haven't shown up for some of the coastal areas yet, it may very well be an inversion in the atmosphere that's preventing that from happening. Now that may disappear once that convective stuff gets in here. So
You know,
we'll see.
it looks like, Joe, that the strongest winds, and I know a lot of people were talking about, oh, Sunday the rain and the wind, it's going to be horrible, and then the whole bit. But it seems that in this particular episode, the strongest winds are going to come after the low has moved on by, as the colder air begins cold air advection begins to come in. That's when the gradient tightens up, and the northwesterlies tomorrow into tomorrow night, and yes, dare I say even Tuesday, we'll be seeing sustained or steady wind speeds 10 to 15, 15 to 20, gusts of 35. You mentioned maybe the odd occasional gust of 40. That's when you're going to get the winds tomorrow into tomorrow night and on into Tuesday. And people right now who are, looking out the window and seeing the rain, but not seeing much wind, are saying, oh, well, I'll take the rain. At least it's not windy. At least I'm not going to lose power or anything. Well, guess what? Long after the rain has ended, tomorrow morning, probably the last of the precip will wind down and end around 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning in the tri-state New York City area. But after that, that's when the winds are going to be blowing at a pretty good clip into Tuesday. And so that is when you may have to be concerned about possibly seeing a power outage or a flash or a flicker in your electricity. And I say that because my power company has this tendency to indeed have those kind of things when you have winds like what we're expecting tomorrow and into Tuesday. So it's not really all over. The rains will be done, or whatever precipitation falls will be done by mid or late morning tomorrow. But then we have to deal with the winds, which will continue into Tuesday. And it won't be until later Tuesday and Tuesday night that the winds really finally begin to wind down in earnest. And this system will finally be completely free of our area.
All right. When the low goes by, I'm just kind of looking here, just sort of eyeballing it off the GFS. The gradient tomorrow morning at about 7 a.m. is actually fairly, pretty tight on the west side. It's not quite as tight by the time you get to 1 p.m., but it's still enough to be, 20 to 30 with some higher gusts. And then, of course, it all pulls away. We've got a high build in. It turns colder, but seasonal? That'll be about it. There is some colder air that moves down into the northwestern lakes, but most of that actually goes east. Some of it, slightly bleeds down around midweek just to keep temperatures closer to normal. And then down in the Gulf of Mexico, we've got a low that's actually coming out from the southwest Gulf of all places in December. It's not a tropical system, but there is a low there, and you see it. Now, this is going to be one of those instances where I'll be curious to see which model's got the right handle on this, because the GFS has been pretty persistent in trying to bring this up the coast in some fashion next weekend. And this is actually not even next weekend now, so it looks like Saturday's fine. And on this run, rain comes in sometime Sunday night of next weekend, and you see it there.
What is
And
this with Sundays all of a sudden?
I don't
Seems like
know.
The
It
better
just
of the
it,
2 weekend days has been Saturday, but last weekend, this weekend, next weekend, Sunday. Ugh.
yeah, I know. And then this low goes up, and there's colder air behind it. That's actually not a half bad cold high that comes down into eastern Canada. This is for the start of the week beginning Monday the 18th. Okay, but I'm not sure if this is going to be correct because the European and the Canadian have suddenly decided that this low is going to hang around or move off the southeast coast and go straight east. I don't know. Lately I've been sort of having a hard time getting my head around um, the models in the longer term. But just to show you in the upper air, you can see that this is the GFS, and just center this map a bit better. This is now going through next weekend, and you see the trough and cutoff low in Alabama there, and then there's a trough in the north that sort of tries to phase with it and lift it up. Now, the thing is, on prior runs, that phasing was further west on the GFS. Now, on this run, it's further east. And when we look at the European with this system, it is doing no phase at all, which is interesting on the day run today, which I'm going to have up there on the screen now. But as we watch this, as we go through this week, you'll see that the ridge builds over the northern Great Lakes. You've got this cutoff low over Texas that dives down into the northwestern Gulf of Mexico, and it misses. See that trough that goes just north of Lake Superior, that blue on the upper right? That northern trough misses the whole thing and just leaves that upper low behind in the Gulf of Mexico, which is, I think that's as odd a solution as what the GFS is doing, which is to be really aggressive in phasing it. So I'm not sure. If I had to guess, the European to me looks like it's not correct, but I also think the GFS is not correct, and that maybe you're going to wind up with something that's weaker that goes out, and then we don't really have much to worry about. Let's just leave that. Let's just leave that as an open possibility as far as the long range is concerned, and going into next week. Now, I want to do a couple of things here, Joe. Um, the um, the CFS climate model. Okay. Now what I call what CFS stands for, correct?
I'm not sure, but it probably is somewhat disparaging.
Well, it's can't forecast, and then use the four-letter S word pejorative,
All right.
meaning do. Okay, and uh, the CFS climate model has been persistent in this idea, and these are weekly. This is a weekly, so we're going to look 6 weeks out. Okay, so this is the week of December the 10th through the 17th, and I don't think there's much of an argument here. The pattern stinks. Okay, you got a you actually have a semi fire hose across the Pacific. The trough in Alaska, as Dave Tollers points out, is not a good thing. Although the CFS starts to retreat this westward. Now, when we go to Christmas, the week from the 24th through the 31st, we have a pattern change on the CFS. Okay, we have troughing in the east, we have ridging in the west, particularly in the Pacific Northwest, and it looks like the trough in Alaska shifts down to south of the Aleutians, which is a positive. The thing is, I actually, and then after that, by the way, when we go into this is January, so this is now all right, so this is the 24th through the 31st. The next frame is the 31st through January 7th. You see where all the ridging is. It's all up here, which is where you want it. The trough is out of Alaska, which is what you want. You've got troughing coming down out of the Aleutians, which is fine. You've got um, troughing in the eastern part of the United States. It's nothing to write home about, but it's not terrible. and it is a colder look overall. And then it gets even more aggressively colder when you go from the 6th, January 7th to January 14th. And then it starts to kind of on the last week, which is the 14th to 21st. The trough sort of pulls out, but you still have a lot of ridging in the west that goes all the way up into Alaska, and a trough that drops down along 160. Now, this is actually, you would look at this, and if you were, if you're a winter weather lover, you would say, okay, well, the pattern the pattern change may still happen. The problem is it's the CFS model. Okay, and as I said from the beginning, the CFS model is the can't forecast, S word meaning doo doo. Um, uh, so I'm not taking it necessarily as a negative, Joe, but it's hard for me to have confidence when I see this, and yet I'm also then looking. If I look at Ann Shambles, okay, thank you to whoever it was on the chat board that said called changed the name to Ann Shambles, because I think that works for me. Um, but when you look at Ann Shambles, and we'll bring up the correct 500 millibar heights. This one is the new one, so it's out to 384 of the Ann Shambles. Just running it along. Now we're at 186. So here's the problem, folks. If you look up in as Dave Towers pointed out the other day, you don't want to trough in Alaska, and you actually briefly get rid of it at the end of this week for like a day or two, and then another upper low gets in there. Okay, you see it moving in right there, and then down to off the west coast, and that causes some ridging in the east, not a lot, but some. And as we go toward the end of the forecast period, so now we're at Christmas Day, you do see the Ann Shambles showing it. My problem with all of this, Joe, is the fact that for a week now, all we keep seeing it as at the end of the forecast period, and we never see it make any progress beyond, say, 360 hours or 330 hours, whatever it is. But it's all out there at days 13, 14, 15, and 16, and every day it's a day later, it's a day later, it's a day later, it's a day later. So now we're waiting for after Christmas for all of this to happen. So look, the the models in the long range, so these long range models, the European weeklies from last week, they're sort of all pointing in this direction. But do not be shocked. Do not be shocked if later this week, if we start to see, the Euro weeklies when the new ones come out, and maybe the CFS later this week, that it backs away from this. Okay, I just want to prepare everybody for the potential for disappointment. Okay.
I have on. I'm sharing right now, and if you want to bring my screen up,
Okay.
this is. I want to show to put a stat sack look on all of the winter weather lovers' faces.
6 to 10, we know.
The 6 to 10-day outlook, which runs from the 16th through the 20th of December, shows everybody save for the Southland and southeastern United States above normal. It's near normal in Florida. It's near normal across the southern states, below normal. Take a look where it's below normal. It's below normal in South Texas. I mean, Brownsville, for example, will be during this period, according to the Climate Prediction Center, below normal. But everybody else, and I would have to say it's at least, 90% of the contiguous United States will be seeing above normal probabilities for milder or warmer than normal temperatures. Even in Alaska, only the far western part of Alaska is below normal. Central and eastern Alaska down to the Pacific coast where Juneau is above normal as well. Now, if you think that's bad, take a look at this now. We're going to look at the 8 to 10 day outlook, 8 to 14 day outlook. Ouch. Ouch. Take a look right here. This area of above, this is 80 to 90% probability of warmer than normal. Joe, this may be one of the first years in many years that places like Minneapolis, Bismarck, Minot, Milwaukee may not have a white Christmas. This is for the time frame from the 18th through the 24th. This is Christmas Eve, the 24th, and you've got this broad area. Let me back off a bit here. Um, this is incredible. Except for the Florida Peninsula, which is near normal, everybody else, 95% of the contiguous U.S. And the eastern half Alaska, is above normal temperature-wise. This zone right here, this dark shade of red, is about as dark as you can get. Let's see. I just want to make sure I'm not getting confused here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That corresponds to 80 to 90% probability, percent chance of above normal temperature. This is absolutely incredible. And at the same time that all this is happening, with the unusually warm temperatures, take a look at the precipitation. 6 to 10 day outlook, right along the Atlantic seaboard, near normal. Only the southeastern U.S. is a bit above normal precipitation-wise. Everywhere else, across the Midwest, the central and northern plains, below normal in terms of precipitation. And if you check out the 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook, look at this, below normal again. So it's still early in the game and anything can happen, but at least according to the Climate Prediction Center, if you're dreaming of a white Christmas, at least in our neck of the woods and even in parts of the Midwest and northern plains, dream on. You may have to dream on until next year, because this is a pattern that presumably is not going to lead to very much in the way of precipitation, and it's a pattern that's going to be leading to, if anything, above normal temperatures for a good long time.
And there you have it. At least today. At least that's what you have today.
Yeah.
So do you have Briller Jeopardy or do I?
I think I may have it,
Okay.
and I'm going to have to.
So let's
find
do
it
that.
now.
Hey, we got 180 likes. We haven't done 200 in a while. So if you haven't hit the like button, you like the show, hit the like button so we get over 200. And Joe gets to ring the bell again and deafen my ears. Anna Patel Vlogs. I just lost power in Coffee County near Valdosta, Georgia. Oh, so you're way south of me. Temperatures instantly went down 20 degrees. Wind is the same as a tropical storm. There you go. So thank you for hitting Super Chat. Thank you for hitting the tip jar tonight. Most appreciated. Uh, South Georgia has a whole different climate than North Georgia, I will say. I've learned that pretty quick.
All right, so here is, and this listing of questions has been waiting to be read since last Wednesday, I
Ah,
believe. Did he send this? I can't believe this. He sent this. I'll tell you how dedicated Mr. Briller is.
and he is dedicated.
This listing of questions was sent to me at 5:56 a.m. last Wednesday, and he's been waiting with bated breath, I'm sure, until we finally played this played this game. He said, "Joe, on this
Well,
Briller Jeopardy."
hold on, Joe. Before you
Yeah.
do that, we just hit 200 likes.
Oh boy! There you go.
Thank
By the
you.
way, I believe on one of the channels, was it USA or one channel last night, they ran "It's a Wonderful Life" from like 10 o'clock to midnight, and I'm sure that NBC will be running it as per usual on Christmas Eve on the national network. So if you can't get enough of bells, you will in the coming days and weeks. Anyway, this particular episode of Briller Jeopardy, we're going to discuss White Christmas in Central Park. And here we go with question number 1, Joe. This is for Central Park now. New York City. Since 1869, how many Christmas days have had at least 1 inch of snow on the ground at Le Parc Central?
All right.
Since 1869, how many days have had at least an
Hold
inch on
on.
the ground?
Just a minute. I am going to say at least an inch on the ground.
Right.
All right, hold on a second. So, 30. I'm going to say 15.
You will say 15?
Yeah.
Well, Alan Rupa said 26, and he was awfully close with that. James Kaplan said 16. Wikipedia says we've had this question before.
Bella Lugrisi says 24.
24. That's close.
John
So
Melander,
close.
22.
So close if a snake would bite you.
Oh, okay. So, what, the 22 or the 24?
Well, actually, a little bit more than 24.
So Patrick Darcy and William Uber and Maggie Peeb all say 25.
And there you go.
And it's 25.
25.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did just some quick math because the actual stat for a white Christmas for New York is about 20% of the time. So over 150 years, you would come out with 30. But then he said what threw me was the 1 inch. So that's why I cut it in half to 15. Otherwise, my initial guess was going to be off that math, which was 30. I should have stuck with that.
All right. Well, but no one's going to yell at you, Joe.
I know. I try.
The last white Christmas at Central Park. This is question number 2. When was the last time we had a white
All right.
Christmas?
So the question is it a white Christmas definition going to be if there's snow on the ground, or is the white Christmas definition going to be that it actually snows on the day? Because if I'm thinking if it's going to be snow on the day, what was it, 2003 or 2002? December of 2000. All I remember is I drove in it, and it was 5 inches. So it was either.
Okay, well, what qualifies in Mr. Briller's mind is snow on the ground, not necessarily snow falling
on
from
the ground. So I'm trying to remember if we either in December of 13 or in December of 14. No, probably not in 14. I'll say 2013.
Well, you're a little bit too late. It happened, and in fact, Leon Probitsky and Patrick Darcy and Fled Weather and Sandy Blue Ocean all got it right on the nose.
So it'll be 2009 because we had that big snowstorm. I think it was on December 19th or December 20th of that year. In 2009. Then we had the Boxing Day storm, which was the day after Christmas in 2010, which almost counts.
Well, there was 2 inches on the ground on Christmas Day in 2009 in Central Park.
Okay, I'll live with that.
Now, what is the most snow to fall on Christmas Day? We're talking about not snow on the ground, but we're talking
actual
about
snow.
Snowfall.
I'm going to say 8 inches.
Close, very close. Exceedingly close.
Exceedingly close. Are you rounding it off or using the exact number?
Well, I guess he rounded it off. It's not something like, 0.3 or whatever like that.
Right.
No,
so it's a round number.
Yes.
So it's either 7 or 9.
Right. And in fact, Alan Rupa.
Frank Scalera.
Got it. At 7.
At 7. Okay, good.
And that particular Christmas was way back in 1909.
Ah.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, and maybe you do too, Joe, 1966, Christmas Eve, the Donner and Blitzen snowstorm. We had something like 5, 6, 7 inches fall, but most of it was on Christmas Eve. It was petering out night, Christmas Day.
Right.
So that does not qualify because, again, what we're talking about is the most snow that fell specifically on Christmas Day, 1909, 7 inches. Now, the warmest Christmas day on record, going back to 1869 at Central Park. What was the warmest day at Central Park?
The warmest day?
Warmest Christmas day.
Was it the one? I'm trying to remember the year a couple of years ago when it was 70. When it was 70, did it turn sharply colder after that front went by, or did it take a day for the cold air to come in?
If I recall correctly, it erased all of the snow that fell on the 15th.
Oh yeah, no, it washed it all away. It got to 70 on Christmas Eve, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I'll let the board take this. Jason Kaplan says 2018. Frank Scalera 2015. Are we in the right decade?
2015 was the correct answer. 2015. And it was boxcars. 66.
66 boxcars.
66 WNBC. Anyway.
Right. We had to wait another month. We had to wait almost another month for the big snowstorm in the middle of January.
Yes. In fact, in 2015 when it hit 66 on Christmas Day, I do remember not a few people throwing in the towel and saying it's going to be one of those winters. We're never going to get any. And
All
as you
right.
just pointed out, Joe, a month later, not only did we get snow, we got the biggest snowfall in the history of New York at
Right.
Central a month later.
And
So
actually, that winter after that snowfall, there were a few for Long Island anyway. There were a few pretty solid snowfalls that occurred in February. So
right,
if they didn't happen anywhere else, they happened there. And since I lived there at the time, that's all that matters. So just to be clear. Go
yes,
go.
and you and I will remember or do remember question number 5, the coldest Christmas Day at Central Park.
Well, that was what, -2, 19, 1970, 1979, 1980.
Okay,
December
19. It was 1980,
1980.
and it was -1.
Right. And
And
there was some snow that night too before
yeah,
when that all the cold air came in. It was
right,
like an inch.
right. In fact, I remember that very well. I was working at a private weather office in Flushing, and my wife, she was not my wife then, she was supposed to come in during that day, Christmas morning, and I called her up on the phone. I said, "Look, Pete Bergman and I are here. Enjoy your Christmas. Don't come in. It's the heck with it." And so she didn't, and we spent that day. And the thing that stands out in my memory is the fact that it was brilliant sunshine that day,
Yeah, it
dazzling,
was. It was. I remember that
and
too.
we had a thermometer, a Heath kit thermometer. It was built and or put together by our boss, Todd Gross, and we didn't have any fancy weather station at that time, but we had this Heath kit thermometer, and we kept looking at the thermometer through the afternoon, and never got higher than 7. And I'm saying to myself, when am I going to see this happen again? Blue sky, brilliant sunshine, and temperatures not getting out of the single digits. 7 degrees after a morning low of something like minus 1 at Central Park.
And that winter, by the way, of 79, 80 was nothing to really write home about. As I remember it, it was pretty dry, and
Yeah,
there wasn't much in the way of snowfall. So
it was a
there you
very
go. You had a brutally cold brutal cold air mass to come in in the month of December, and it didn't guarantee you anything. It wound up being a not so interesting winter from the standpoint of snowfall.
and
I think we
that's
went
great.
weeks without any snow, and it was dry, not
That is
even
a
rain.
that is a great analogy to don't judge a book by its cover, especially don't judge a Christmas book by its cover. All of you out there listening, listen loud to what we just pointed out. Warmest Christmas day at Central Park, 66 in 2015. Everybody, I remember distinctly saying, "Oh dear me, it's going to be a horrible winter. It's going to be warm. It's going to be snowless. We're not going to have much of a month later, we had the biggest snowstorm on record at Central Park, something like 27.5 inches, coming on the heels of the warmest Christmas day on record. Then, for question 5, coldest Christmas day, -1 degree. That was on Christmas Day 1980. You'd figure, oh, this is going to set the stage for a really wintry, cold, snowy winter. And as Joe pointed out, we hardly had anything. We had butkus much of that winter season in terms of snowfall. So it just goes to show you, don't judge. I'm just saying this because it looks like it's going to be a warm Christmas here in 2023. Don't judge it by Christmas. Don't judge the winter by Christmas, because a lot can happen between Christmas and the end of meteorological winter, which is March the 1st. And we'll just see how all this pans out. Bonus question, Joe, and then we'll close things down for the
All right,
night.
before you do though, I just want to say on the chat board, the 32712 says snow is finally sticking at the North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee tri-state border. Just bring it down one state. I'm down. I just dropped another degree. I'm at 36.
We're working on it.
Yes.
We're working on it.
All right. So
We have somebody on the chat board. 6 thick thistle sticks. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that one.
6 thick thistle stick. And when I saw that,
Oh, there it is. 6 thick thistle sticks.
yeah, that, and I immediately thought of Sonny Fox, the late great Sonny Fox, who on his Sunday morning kids show, Wonderama, he used to have tongue twisters. And his very favorite tongue twister, if you wanted to win a prize, was you had to say six thick thistle sticks like 3 times. It's easy enough when you're,
And he's from New Hampshire, Joe. By the way, he says back in late December 1980, it was minus 35 for 4 days.
Isn't that lovely? Isn't that great?
That hasn't happened up in in New England for a while.
Yeah, I can remember.
In the last few years, we haven't seen it. Leon Probitsky just banged the tip jar. Thank you, Leon. Most appreciated.
Thank you.
Um,
But since 1957, Joe, and chat board, since 1957, how many years did Caribou go without a white Christmas, 1 inch of snow cover? How many times have they not had a white Christmas?
Since 1957?
Right.
So that tells me that in 1956 they didn't have a white Christmas. I'm guessing. I'm just assuming.
I'm just reading.
All right. So read the question again.
Since 1957, how many years did Caribou go without a white Christmas, 1 inch of snow cover? So wouldn't that mean Christmas 1957?
Right. How many years did Caribou go with? I'm not understanding the question. How many years did Caribou go without a white Christmas? So in other words, what's the longest streak that they've ever had?
I'm assuming that over this time span of 66 years?
Okay, so how many times in those 66 years did Caribou not have a white Christmas since 1957?
Right.
I will say, I'm just thinking that the way the question is worded, because he picked 1957, unless, well, without making this too complicated. All right, I'm going to take a guess. I'll say 3.
They've actually had a little bit more than 3.
Really? Oh, okay. Yeah. So those of you who put 1, Adam Lowe and Latex Dreams, you're way too low. Bobby Livingsworth said 5 times.
Very close, Bobby.
And Robert Hill said 5 times.
Very, very close.
And that tells me that the answer was Silvio Balzano said 7.
Well, see,
so he's close the other way. So that tells.
Now we're surrounding.
So Frank Scalera and Alan Rupa have figured it out. It's 6.
Yes, indeed. 6 times they've had a Christmas without any snow cover in Caribou.
All right, so
they've had quite a bit of snow already up there. So
yeah. This may go to rain all the way up to Caribou.
Yeah.
This thing tonight into tomorrow morning, and they'll make it back a little bit on the backside anyway.
Right.
All right, so I guess then the choices are, Joe, in terms of the bucket list thing, is either we go sit in front of the lakefront during a lake effect event, or we go to Caribou, Maine for a week.
Well, all I could say is it's going to be. It looks like it's going to be balmy for a while, but I don't think it's going to stay this way all through. And interestingly, and I pointed this out more than a few times on the Joe and Joe show over the years, that a Central Park December with less than 3 inches usually means below normal snowfall. And it's looking more and more like we're going to have that in December, less than 3 inches of snow at Central Park. And that means you're saying, Joe Rayo, it's going to be below normal at Central Park. Yes, it will. But remember that normal snowfall at Central Park now is 30, 31 inches. And it could very well be that we could, and I said that we were going to make up for last year, which only had 2.5 inches. So we might, before the winter is over at Central Park, have one of those winters where we see 20 or 25 or 30 inches of snow and still either reach or just fall short of the normal and still have quite a bit of snow, more snow than we had last year. And let me point out, Joe, 2015, that year of the record Christmas warmth with 66, that was a year when we did not have much in the way of any snow Central Park in December. And you just said, oh, well, we're not going to see anything of any significance. And a month later, it was one of those rare cases where mostly the entire winter came in one big lump with that 27.5 inches that fell in late January of 2016. So who knows? We'll see. Lots of winter ahead of us. Winter hasn't even officially begun from an astronomical point of view. But those people out there who are ready to throw the towel in, don't, because I think we're going to have some interesting stuff to talk about in the days and weeks and months to come.
All right. Thank you for those of you who hit the like button tonight. 219. It's a long been a while since we broke it over 200. So great to see, and we had a lot of viewers tonight, which is really nice, and we appreciate it. And Fled Weather, yes, I'll thank you for sending me the Euro Weeklies. It'll give me time to save them, and then I can bring them up. I'll bring them up tomorrow night because we're an hour and 15 minutes, so this is one of our longer shows. Um, oh, here's another good name, Joe Sir Hunt a lot. I no, I'm 3 hours south of Caribou, he says. All right. Well, welcome to the chat board, Sir Hunt a lot. To be careful when you say that too, by the way.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and Robert Hill saying that Eric Snodgrass, who I've invited on this, I mean, I sent an email, then nobody ever responded. So, um, but no matter. I tried to get him. If he watches this show, I don't know that he does, but check your email, Eric. We'd love to have you on. Okay. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. And I'll be putting up video updates uh, tomorrow. You know, I did 2 today. So always with your notifications on those new videos, when the videos come up during the day, weather in a minute and weather in 5, uh, catch those too. So we'll.
Incidentally, a couple of people at the beginning of the show said, "Oh, look at Joe Rayo, frou. You know, nice shirt, nice tie." It's one of my when I was on News 12, I used to during December, I used to show all kinds of wear all kinds of Christmas ties. So I'm wearing my Looney Tunes Christmas tie here. I don't know how many of you can see that, but you know, with Daffy and Bugs and Tweety and everybody all wearing their red Christmas hats. And the reason why I'm dressed up like this is that before the show began, Joe, we just had gotten back from the local German club Christmas party, and it's always a lovely affair to get together with all the people. Renata is a director of the club, and we didn't have the same two people that we've had for many years. The two people that we had really, you know, they were very good. They played lots of Christmas songs and got everybody all together when we sang the 12 Days of Christmas. And this year they were gone, and I said, "Why are they gone?" And Renata said, "Well, they were getting kind of old, and we thought we'd freshen things up a little bit." And the two people who replaced the normal duo that we have at Christmas time, I swear to you, the guy looked like Methuselah.
Oh God.
And the other and it took 2 hours for them to play their first. They were playing like, you know, traditional German music, but I said, this is a Christmas party, you know. And finally they got around to playing a couple of Christmas songs or whatever. So maybe the old
Well,
couple, the former couple who used to be there all the, maybe next year they'll come back.
Kyle Murray says, I've been lurking in the background. Yay. See, every once in a while, the lurkers come on the chat board. Welcome
Yes.
to the chat board, Kyle. Since you two were working at the TV station, I've been lurking in the background since you two were working at the TV stations. My question is, when they count current snow totals this year, do they count it if it melts? They count what sticks. Now, eventually, all snow melts, but they measure it as it falls and as it sticks. I hope that answers your question.
The thing is that, you know, today and 99% of the time when they make a snow accumulation measurement, they just stick a ruler in the snow. If you want to do it professionally, you know, the real fanatics, they have what's called snowboards, and like every hour you put the board on top of the snow, and I think it has something to do with you know, compression or whatever.
Right.
But you know, that's another way of measuring the snow. But yeah, you're right. I mean, like eventually all the snow melts. But if you've been taking notes on how much snow that you measured, you know, in the past, and add it all up, that's how much snow you've received during the winter season.
And I just thought somebody else was Liam Wolf, new on the chat board. Liam, thank you, and thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. So you'll know because we're on every night, Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Nighty night.
Nighty night, folks.